I think there's a wrinkle to this, Peter, that goes beyond Josh McDaniels. Earlier this week on PFT PM, Miles Simmons, our newest arrival at PFT, and I were talking about Eric Bieniemy's candidacy with the Texans. And Miles raised the question of whether Bieniemy should have just told the Texans, no thanks, I don't want to interview with you, because it seems to be an effort to get back in the good graces of Deshaun Watson, since they didn't talk to Bieniemy during that bye week when everyone else who had a vacancy did. And my response was, you don't want to get in the habit of poking your finger in the eye of a billionaire who owns an NFL team, because the rest of the billionaires pay attention to that, and I think they resent it if one of them gets a finger poked in his or her eye, and you become put in that category of troublemaker, for lack of a better term, or somebody who just doesn't go along with the flow. And there's always plenty of others who do. So, and again, regardless of why, how, the details, the explanations, it doesn't matter in the eyes of the broader billionaire boys club and girls club now. What matters is you stood up and told us no, and we don't like that. I feel like there's a certain element of that floating around in all of this.
You know, maybe, Mike, but I mean, look, the solution for the Houston Texans starts and ends with one man, and that's Eric Bieniemy. How far Deshaun Watson will take this wildcat strike of the Houston Texans, we don't know. No one knows. Anybody who says, oh, that's it, he's definitely played his last snap for the Texans, I will remind you of one thing. We are, as of this morning, 3 months and 1 week away from the NFL draft. That's NFL draft weekend. So unless it's pushed back, and Roger Goodell's history would say, there's no way we're pushing the stinking draft back. But unless it's pushed back, the Houston Texans have 3 months to solve this painful chapter in franchise history. Will they do it? I don't know. The best chance they have is to say to Eric Bieniemy, we want you to be the head coach of our team. And by the way, we want you to salvage the reputation that we don't have anymore with Deshaun Watson.
Well, and Eric Bieniemy is 0 for 6 when it comes to getting hired in this cycle. He's 0 for 2 in the prior cycles globally with all of the vacancies. The Texans' job will be the one, if any, this year. Eric Bieniemy met with reporters on Thursday in advance of the AFC Championship game and was asked about his desire to take that next step and become a head coach. Here he is.
Here's the thing. It's always good to be mentioned and having an opportunity to pursue your dreams. And obviously, yes, I do want to be a head coach. But when it's all said and done with, my job is to make sure everything that we're doing right now is not to take away from the goals that we're trying to accomplish. The only thing that matters today, we got better. Okay, today we had an opportunity to make sure we can take care of situational football as far as short yardage, goal line, and our third down situations. So now it's time for us to go back in and chop wood, watch this tape, and get ready for the next day. We want to make sure that we're getting our guys ready to make sure they can take care of business on Sunday. My own personal business, when all that's time to take care of itself, that will take care of itself.
Beyond the fact that that little clip, I think, strengthens your argument that you've been making for a few years that the whole process should be delayed until after the Super Bowl so you don't have these coaches who are balancing two pretty damn big plates at the same time and they can just focus on the job they're supposed to do. Setting that aside, I just don't get it. I don't get it. There's now the whispers, oh, he doesn't interview well. I play that press conference. I hear him talk like that, and I want him to run my football team if someone would be dumb enough to let me run one.
Mike, all the people who kind of ding Eric Bieniemy, they're making the choice that they feel at that time is the best choice for their team. But to me, the craziest thing about all this is that in Kansas City, Doug Peterson, the offensive coordinator of the team who didn't call the plays, got a job with the Philadelphia Eagles, ended up winning a Super Bowl. Then 2 years later, Matt Nagy, the offensive coordinator of the Chiefs, got a job with the Chicago Bears, had a little success, and now is struggling. But whatever. The story is they got jobs. They were not the full-time play callers. They were the kitchen cabinet of Andy Reid. That's what they were. And now you have Eric Bieniemy, who's exactly the same. He's done it for 3 years. This will be the third consecutive year that the Kansas City Chiefs have reached the AFC Championship game at home and, playing with home field. And I just want someone to tell me, just one person, after hearing on and off the record from Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes about how good he is and what an incredible leader he is. This game for a head coach is still about standing in front of the team and allowing them to lead you, making yourself such a force of nature that when they leave that meeting room, they say, come on, let's all pull on the rope together. That is Eric Bieniemy. I'm just, it's so wearying to have this argument every year. It's idiotic. And if the NFL goes 0 for Eric Bieniemy again, a pox on every owner's house who's had a coaching vacancy, and a pox on the Houston Texans for having it right in their face, for having the only job open right now, the only one, and bypassing Bieniemy again. They should not do that.
Especially when there's a damn good chance that that is the move that could fix the relationship with their franchise quarterback, who as of now is at best lukewarm. At very best, I think it's colder than lukewarm on the question of whether or not he wants to stay with the Texans. You bring in Bieniemy, and I think Deshaun Watson may have a different viewpoint altogether. And there's something about Bieniemy, Peter, that confounds me. And I'm going to use and let me go ahead and give anyone out there the 10-second heads up. If you want to change the channel, go ahead and change it now, because I'm going to talk about Colin Kaepernick for a second. If you don't like it, sorry. When Colin Kaepernick was in the process of being shunned, the powers that be did a very effective job of planting to willing ears and voices in the media a whole host of narratives to support the shunning of Colin Kaepernick. Spurious as they may be, they still did it. With Bieniemy, the best you hear from anyone as to why he's not a head coach is this vague concern about whether he interviews well, which has nothing to do with coaching, by the way. You're not hiring somebody to sit in a room and talk to you for an hour and a half at a time at the country club. You're hiring someone to coach your football team. But they're not even trying. And I guess I respect not trying to put reasons out there more than putting out a bunch of BS, which they did with Kaepernick, but they're not even trying to fill the void with an explanation as to why. It's just kind of sitting there.
I have zero explanation for it anymore, Mike. And, as I say, pox on the NFL's house if nobody hires them. And I think the one other thing that I think has become very obvious. Look, I don't know Patrick Mahomes well, okay? Yeah, I've talked to him quite a few times over the last 3 years, okay? But the conversations I've had with him about Eric Bieniemy are a mixture of quizzical and sort of telling me essentially in a strident voice, people are so missing the boat on this guy. And look, whatever happens, happens. Life will go on. But I will not be surprised if there is some form of, I don't want to say organized protest. I don't even know what it would be. But I do believe there will be blowback in a big way if Eric Bieniemy does not get a job in this hiring cycle. And rightfully so.
I can't help but think that at some level, and I try to keep it as basic and simple as possible, and I love to get into the whole human dynamics because you can't divorce the human dynamics from whatever the context is. I just feel like the owners don't like being told what to do, and they feel like they're being told to hire Eric Bieniemy. And there's a delicate balance there. And if you're creating the impression that you're wagging a finger at these folks, they tend to react in a negative way, because no one wags a finger at the owner of an NFL team. How dare you tell me what to do? I'll do what I damn well please. I'll comply with your rules and I'll check your boxes, but at the end of the day, I'm going to do what I want to do. I feel like that, at some level, is the explanation, Peter, What other explanation could there be? Why would an owner deny himself or herself the opportunity to hire a coach who could do that thing that all the owners claim they want to do, which is win every Super Bowl possible?
If that is the case, Mike, and I don't think that's a bad theory, but if that is the case, then Houston Texans season ticket holders, if the team does not hire Eric Bieniemy, should wag their fingers at Cal McNair in the form of shredding the season ticket renewal envelope that comes in the mail and then showing up for the first home game when there will be 11 people in the stands and showing up for the first home game with picket signs. It's gotten beyond absurd. But if the Texans don't do the right thing, you can talk about, well, we're not going to be told what to do. They deserve the rancor that they're going to receive.
Yeah, I can remember when Jed York, the CEO of the 49ers, said you can't fire an owner. No, but you don't have to buy his products, and that eventually will accomplish the goal. So we'll see what happens with Bieniemy, but I don't get it, Peter, and you don't get it, and I don't think anybody gets it, and we'll see if Bieniemy gets the opening in Houston.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.